of Education, Dr. Miguel Cardona, who was confirmed just 2 weeks ago, a fellow nutmegger, that means from Connecticut, for any of you who don't know. He previously served as the Commissioner of Education in Connecticut. In this position, he faced the unprecedented challenge of responding to the COVID-19 pandemic and led the safe school reopening efforts in Connecticut. To do so, Secretary Cardona and his department provided school districts with the balance of guidance, local autonomy, and oversight needed to ensure equitable and meaningful educational opportunities for students, while also prioritizing public health mitigation measures. Since it's his first time here, first of many, hopefully. He has 2 decades of experience as a public school educator. He began his career as an elementary school teacher. He then served as a school principal. So with that, I will turn it over to the Secretary. He has a short timeline, so he'll be able to take just a couple questions today. As always, I'll be the bad cop, but we'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon. As Jen mentioned, I'm Miguel Cardona. We're at a critically important time in our nation's history in education, and I'm honored to serve as the Secretary of Education. My goal, my priority right now is to safely reopen as many schools as possible, as quickly as possible. And to do that, earlier today, I notified all 50 states, DC, and Puerto Rico of the amount of funds they'll be receiving from the American Rescue Plan, totaling nearly $122 billion to help them reopen safely and quickly. I'm also pleased to share that HHS is allocating an additional $10 billion for states to do screening and surveillance testing in schools to make sure we can not only open our schools, but keep them open. And then thirdly, I'm really, really excited to announce that next week we will be having our national reopening summit for schools, where we're going to hear best practices from across the country on how to do this safely and how to do it quickly. Because we know there are great examples out there. We know students learn best from students, teachers learn best from teachers, and states will learn best from states on how to safely reopen schools quickly. I'm really excited that Dr. Jill Biden will be offering opening remarks, and Dr. Rochelle Walensky will also be in attendance. So I'm excited about that. You know, as a parent and as an educator, I know the value of in-person learning, and for those of you that are parents here, you know there's no substitute for in-person learning. So I'm excited to get to work, making sure we can safely reopen our schools as quickly as possible. I'll take any questions you have. Thank you.
Okay, Darlene.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you for being here. Sure. You talked about the money that you've informed states that they're getting. How will you ensure that the money is actually spent for the things that schools need to reopen?
It's a great question. Thank you. It's critically important that we use the funds to support our students, especially those students who have had gaps exacerbated as a result of this pandemic. We know achievement and opportunity gaps have widened, so it's critically important that that process is not only communicated with the education department, but publicly as well. We will be receiving reports from the states on how they're going to be using their money, and we also expect those reports to be public.
Go ahead.
Mr. Secretary, thank you for being here. Now that teachers are eligible in most every state, what do you say to those teachers and school officials who refuse to get vaccinated?
Well, you know, the vaccination is one of those strategies that we know, in addition to the mitigation strategies, allow for schools to safely reopen. So it's critically important that we vaccinate as many as possible, and we promote the benefits of the vaccination to make sure we have safe school communities. So the message really is, if you're able to get a shot, and you know that's a strategy to help keep our schools open.
Nothing about making it mandatory. If teachers want to come back unvaccinated, that's fine by you.
At this point, vaccination is available for educators, and I'm proud that the president prioritized educators to be vaccinated, because we know that when that's not the case, it's more likely that schools will close due to quarantining.
Can I ask you about the money quickly? We know that you said $122 billion will be given to the states from the American Rescue Plan right now. The CBO anticipated that the bulk of the spending of funds provided through that plan won't be provided until after 2021. There was, I think, $67 billion that existed from the past relief plans that have been passed that, according to the CBO, the bulk of which had not been spent. So why, at first, is that accurate? And why hasn't more of that money been spent right now, even before the American Rescue Plan money was sent out, to get those schools to safely reopen?
We know that the bulk of the money is also being used on human resources, and that's paid out as people perform the service or are hired and their contracts are paid out. And services also are paid when they're given. And we're in March. We still have some of the school year left. We're looking to release funds this month. And we know that schools are needing that to not only prepare for reopening now, but also to plan ahead. We know that when our students come back, they're going to need more social emotional support. We know that our schools have to be designed to meet the needs of the students after they return after a pandemic. So this is a long-term process also that they can plan for next year and the following year as well with this American Rescue Plan.
You also today announced $12 billion to help ramp up testing in schools. How soon before we're actually going to see some of this surveillance?
Yes, that's $10 billion from the Health and Human Services Department. So we're looking to get that soon. We know that that's a tool to help keep schools open, not only reopen, but keep them open in the near future. The goal really is this spring, we want our students back in school as quickly, as safely as possible, and that's going to assist in that process.
And we're more than halfway, obviously, through March. Do you have any kind of update on the administration's effort to try and get every teacher at least one shot by the end of the month, where that stands?
You know, I'm really pleased that at the state level, many states recognize the importance of vaccinating educators, not only teachers, but paraeducators, custodians, bus drivers. They're critically important parts of that school community. So we know that that's a priority in our different states, and I think it's, as I said earlier, it's part of the strategy to make sure that our schools are safely reopened, in addition to those mitigation strategies that we know when working we can also use to safely reopen our schools.
Kristen, you're going to have to be the last one. But we'll bring him back.
Well, thank you, and thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Secretary.
Yeah.